Kia ora koutou, malo, kia ora, hello, how you going? Welcome everyone to the Render Radio tonight. We are glad to have you with us. I am Cliff Thompson, pastor at the Render Gathering, and I'm excited and very, very glad that you are joining us here this evening. We've got a great guest, a special guest again to come in and talk to us about leadership, life, passion, a whole lot of raft of other stuff. But before we get to any of that tonight, I would like to say welcome to the man with the greatest beard in all of South Auckland. Say hello, brother.
Kia ora, konnichiwa, ni hao, talofa. It's our time. Kia ora, everyone. It's good to be here. Render Radio, Friday night. There is no better place to be than right here, right now, with us. And we're really looking forward to catching up with our very special guest.
It's going to be a good one. And like I said, the reality is we're going to talk about some great stuff tonight, but we've got some competition happening right now in the form of level 2. So people can be out and about getting Macca's, getting KFC. Things are starting to heat up. and warm up in society. So it's going to be interesting times over the next few weeks to see how we navigate. With that being said, as we bring our special guest in tonight, we would love you to ask questions about some of the things that we're talking about. Obviously, let's keep them contextual. So we have some great questions coming through because we're going to ask our guest those questions towards the interview part of the show. And then he's going to hang around for all the rest of it, fun, and the dynamics of the show as we move through the different sections. He'll be with us through that. So that's going to be great. Don't forget to put your questions in, and then we'll bring them through at the end of the interview section. It is Friday. It's the end of the week. It's now the weekend, and probably the first time in 7 weeks where it feels a bit more like a weekend for some people, for most people maybe. For some of us, it's still all a bit Groundhog Day-ish, week to week, day to day. But we appreciate that it is Friday, which frames up and puts some confines around that it's the weekend. So let's talk about the week that was. Friday thoughts. Bodie, what's on top for you? And actually, before we get to that, we introduced a section on Wednesday night, a segment called, it was around crowd participation and engagement. And while Bodie's gathering his Friday thoughts, we're going to bring this up. We're going to play a little game for you in a moment. Then we're going to talk about Friday stuff. And then we're going to get to the results of this little engagement game. So let's bring this little picture up here for you right now. And tonight is, what is your Star Wars name? The rules are real simple. We want you to take the first letter of your first name. So we're going to have to leave this up for a little bit. And then the third letter of your last name. We might leave this up just while we start talking about Friday thoughts. So you can start, because I just realized if we take this off the screen.
Take a screenshot as well?
You could, take a screenshot. But we'll leave it up for a little bit while we just chat, and then we'll bring the results through. We want you to then fire through, put your Star Wars name together. It's been, we had May the 4th this month, so we had a celebration of Star Wars. We'd love you, just as a bit of fun tonight. What would your Star Wars name be? And then we'll bring them through in the live comments, and we'll have a look at a few of them as we come to the end of our Friday Thoughts conversation. So while that's still up for a moment, Bodie, what has been your review or your thoughts of the week?
Sorry, just looking at all the names. While everyone's getting their Star Wars name together, I just like to sing everyone a song. Psych. So for me, it's still today's news, or what's been floating around in my head, is still around what level 2 life is all about. Obviously, and also I did spend a little time watching the government's budget and what they delivered yesterday. I spent my first day of level 2 at home the whole day. I didn't leave home, so that takes a lot of.
You spent level 2 and level 3.
Yeah, and that takes a lot of fortitude, a lot of courage to do something like that. A lot of staying power. Yeah, but what else? They've just released the NRL draw, or the initial NRL draw for the new look season. So for all our NRL fans, and I'm assuming everyone's a Warriors fan because that's just standard. Go and check it out. See what's where your team is, or who you're playing against in the first round, or which is the third round.
Yep.
Cool. What else has been happening? Yeah, that's about it. Just right. What is level 2? What is it doing?
What is level 2? And for me, just thinking about coming into the weekend, I am for all the week that's been, just reflecting back on some of the changes, the navigating, and I appreciate all the work that schools and businesses. I'm glad for a lot of businesses that are able to open back up and get some revenue coming in. That's really, really important. But again, people understand what level 2 looks like. Keep yourself safe. Keep away from a lot of the conjecture on social media as well. Yeah. A lot of it isn't helpful. So as we think about all those things on a Friday, let's come back to the middle. We're going to take that graphic down, and we're going to have some fun. So what we did is we prepared something earlier for you. And I thought, man, I was so excited about this because I thought, right, my name, what is it going to be? And I unfortunately, as we bring these names through, this is what my Star Wars name was. And I was like, I thought I was going to be Darth something, but mine actually legitimately is Jar Jar Binks. Sad.
Aka.
Yeah, so I'm Jar Jar Binks, and Bodhi, he got Sarlacc Dooku.
Yeah, which translates into Schnack Dooku.
Or slack dude.
Slack dude.
That's what it means in Māori, slack dude. And then we've got, obviously, you can see that Greedo Binks must be related to myself. So let's have a bit of fun with you guys. What have you got tonight? Let's bring some of your names through. Oh, there we go. Another relative, Sergeant Binks. She is the boss too. Oh, Senator Palpatine. There we go.
The Sith Lord. Obi-Wan
Sidious. It's like we're going to promote you but demote you at the same time.
Yeah, you're in front of the battle.
I say Binks Windu.
Binks Windu.
Bro, how'd you get that one? How lucky is that?
Hard one, D2.
All right, we got a few more to come through.
Darth Boba Binks. It's like a hip hop name as well.
Yeah, like a rap name.
Binks.
The DBB.
Padme Skywalker, nice, Barry.
Klasa. Jabba Maui.
Hey.
Jabba Maui.
Jabba Maui.
Oh, here's one from Willie. Luke Yoda.
Luke, nice.
Ooh,
that's solid.
Some solid power there. Couple more? We got any more?
The force is strong in Willie.
May Palpatine Yoda. Ooh, that's a conflict. And one more. Have we got one more? See if we've got one more in there. I see one from Tita. I'm going to read that one. There we go. Emperor Dooku. And that brings us to the end of crowd participation.
I had a prop ready to go.
Brady and his $2 lightsaber. Awesome, bro. Just bringing quality to our show. How good.
It's not even the right noise.
Yeah. It's that standard noise from those Chinese $2 shop.
That Manurewa lightsaber.
Oh, it's the same toy that every kid's got on their bike when they push that button at the front of their bike, you know. All right. Anyway, let's jump to the section we've all been waiting for. Is our special guest tonight, and this one it really is. We're really excited about having this person on. His name is Grant Harris. He is pastor, entrepreneur, father, grandfather, husband, chaplain. We're going to talk a lot about all of this sort of stuff tonight with him. But before I do bring him in, I just want to make mention, so Grant has been the chaplain for the Breakers, I think, the last 10 years, and he can talk a little bit about how some of that's changing for him now, the New Zealand Breakers. And he's been with them through their title run seasons, which is pretty cool. But he's also been the senior pastor of Windsor Park Baptist, which is known as one of New Zealand's, let's call it New Zealand's premier Baptist churches, New Zealand's finest Baptist churches. But he is overall a great guy. He loves a bit of banter, loves a bit of fun, loves to talk, loves to have a laugh. And but obviously you can't lead the things that he leads without being a great leader as well. So we're going to welcome in Grant now. Let's bring him into the show.
Kia ora.
Yay. Hey, Grant.
Kia ora, Grant.
You could actually call me Greedo Solo if you like.
There we go.
That's nice.
Greedo Solo. Greedo Solo. Welcome to the show, Greedo Solo. It's great to have you, bro. Yeah, it is really great to have you. May the force be with you. We really appreciate you being here with us tonight, Grant. And like I said, I've given a really quick synopsis of some of the things that you're involved in more so. I wanted to not talk so much about where you've come from and your whānau, to give you that platform and opportunity to share a little bit with us about who you are as a person, as an individual. So that'll be our start point tonight. Tell us a little bit about you, your whānau, sort of what's led you to where you are today.
Yeah, no, thanks so much. And great to those that are joining us on a Friday night. waking up from your couch or wherever you've been doing. Level 2, maybe you've been out. The weirdest thing for level 2 for me is when level 3 came in, we just lived down the road from a KFC. And the queue that night on that Tuesday was literally 400 meters long all the way back to Constellation. And it's just almost a thing like that. Even tonight, I was coming back from the supermarket. The queue was still out onto East Coast Road where we are. I don't know. There's a lot of chickens paying a price for this. So anyway, what was I talking about for KFC? Yeah, my photo, where I came from. Yeah, so great to be here. I go back to Palmerston North as my hometown. I grew up in Palmy down there, and kite flying was my speciality because it's always windy in Palmy. So that's where I came from. My parents are from Wellington originally, and so but then I shifted up to Auckland, and I'll tell you about that in a moment. But I discovered more of my roots are actually up here, which has been an interesting discovery for me since I've been up here. Mount Albert and Port Albert actually is where my earliest ancestors arrived when they came to New Zealand from England. So I found it pretty interesting discovering that since I've been up here. But yeah, born and bred in Palmerston North, and went to school down there and started my career straight out of school. I'm old enough that it was the very first year where it was sixth form internal assessment, which is year 12 now. And so I didn't quite understand that you had to work for internal assessments. So halfway through what is year 12 now, and I would have killed any of my kids to drop out of school at that time, but I did. And I went into the bank, and I started a career in banking actually straight out of school, and had 12 years working for Westpac. In the Manawatu, but then in the last number of years down in Wellington's head office where Westpac was at the time. And so I had a really great career. In fact, the career was going well. But there was a bit of a early midlife sort of crisis for me, which took a few years to work itself out actually. And there's a story around that, but really felt that God was leading me in another direction. Music was a really big part of my life, always has been, always is. As a worship leader, a keyboardist, played a range of instruments. And I was actually at the Hillsong Conference in 1996, and it was hopping off a bus. I can remember it. Sometimes you have these moments in life that you just kind of remember. And I was hopping off a bus, and just God said, I've got something else for you in life other than this. And I was like, that's interesting. So I came home and told my wife about it. And at that time, we just had a couple of little kids. My career was going well, and she wasn't too keen on anything else. So God had to work out his way in her life. But it ended up after a few years of us leaving that career, which was promising and was good, and shifted up here actually to Auckland and went to Carey Baptist College, which was a surprise to me. I'd never considered that God would call me to be a local church pastor, and there's a story about that. And so, found ourselves up here at Carey, and I can remember walking around the first semester going, man, I thought this place was like for spiritual people, but I'm here. But maybe they aren't. Or, I'm one of them. I don't know. It was a very confusing time. But anyway, ended up doing that for 3 years and graduated Carey, and then was called down to what is now North Point Baptist in New Plymouth. And so we shifted down there. We had our fourth child while we were at Carey in our middle year. So 4 young children went down to Taranaki and spent 7 wonderful years down there pastoring. It was Bell Block, and I changed the name to North Point. Did a bunch of stuff down there, and it was amazing. We love Taranaki, beautiful place, and part of our heart still stays down there. But then God called us again in a significant way to come up here to Windsor Park, and again, it wasn't what I was looking for. But when God calls you, you ain't can say no for so long, and then you've just got to submit to His will, and that's the best place to be. So it was coming up 12 years this October since we relocated up here to Auckland, and our kids at the time were early teenagers. Our eldest daughter was 14, and our youngest son was 7. So we came up here, and now our kids working the backwards. Our family, our eldest daughter is 26. She got married last year, and during lockdown had our first mokopuna, first grandson. So that was a beautiful thing. We had to look at him through a tinted window for the first couple of weeks because lockdown, and we're very proud of her. She had to have a home birth because of the restrictions on hospitals and stuff, and so it's been an amazing experience. He'll be 5 weeks this coming Sunday. And then our second son is 24, and he got married to Jess right before this all went crazy on the 29th of February. So they got married, they went on their honeymoon, they came back straight into self-isolation because they were right at the time when that was coming in. So 2 weeks of that, and then 4 weeks of lockdown, and then another 2 weeks of level 3. So they've basically been in isolation for about 8 weeks, plus their honeymoon is like 10 weeks.
Oh, man. Wow.
What a honeymoon.
So no, great. And then our third daughter, who's 21, she actually, a week after that wedding in February, she shifted to Brisbane. Her boyfriend is playing rugby over there for Souths in Brisbane. He's actually out of West Auckland, out of Church Unlimited, Tuck Barnes Church.
Oh, yeah.
He went over at the start of the year with the contract with Souths, and obviously he's not playing much rugby right now.
Yeah.
Set to resume next in June, I think. So yeah, so she shifted to Brisbane, and then our youngest son is 20, and he's still with us. So he's done lockdown with us. He's an apprentice electrician. So he's back at work now. So yeah, that's a little bit of my background, my family.
Yeah, that's awesome, bro. And thank you for sharing that, because we're going to get to, obviously, I want to ask some questions about how you navigate some challenging seasons and as you've been through this and some of the stuff you carry. But there was something significant you said there around, and which might be helpful for a lot of people. I know, because it pricked my ears up, was when you said about how when God called, you obviously weren't at that place straight away of, yeah, that's really what I want to do. Like that's what I believed I wanted to have my life work out and do and be. What was that, not so much what was that moment for you, but how did you understand, or how did you submit? Because a lot of people struggle with that submission part to God in a lot of areas of life. But what was that part for you? What helped you to say, you know what, God, I'm going to give it over to you, even though I might not understand or I might not want to. What was that submission part for you, Grant?
Yeah, I think I'd start by saying it's not quick sometimes. It takes a little bit to work out. First of all, I've always found normally, and to this day, when God says something about me, I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. It sounds hard, or I don't know what it's going to be. And then, so for me, there's always a process of discernment that goes on, for me in all of that processing, and it involves, I guess, a number of things. It involves your own discernment, and I'm a really big fan. I'm a huge fan. In fact, the older I've got, the bigger fan that I am of this, of really understanding who we are, of discovering the way that God has wired us. And I'm a real fan of, different psychometric tests that we get to do sometimes in leadership, or we do when we're applying for jobs and things like that. Understanding the way that God has wired us has become just so fundamental to who I am as a person, and that everything kind of flows out of that. And the more that I learn about that, the more that I discover my unique giftings, what makes me tick, what my capacity is, what my heart is for the world or whatever, the more I just discern and to strongly believe that, this is where God kind of works us in. We're all so different. We've all got different gifts, and we're all wired a little bit differently to everybody else. And so the more I understand the way that he's wired me, the more I can just say, yeah, that seems to fit, doesn't it? That seems logical in some ways. That feels like it's a good thing for me. And it doesn't mean that it's comfortable. Normally, the good stuff happens outside our comfort zones, but there's a certain resonance that goes on when, if God called me to be a mechanic, I'd be like, nah, bro, I'm not good at engines. And I know that, and I'm not good at a whole bunch of stuff, but I am good at these things. And I just believe that God has a place for us that capitalizes upon our strengths. So I'll go for that. I mean, that's a good thing. The other thing for me that I've always used is wise counsel, is the voices of others. I remember when I first felt God say to me that, local church ministry is for you. I'd never thought about that before. Normally when you feel God calling you, you think you're going to be a missionary or something like that. Or back in my day, that was kind of like for super Christians. And I hadn't thought about it in the past. So when that came across, and it was literally I'm old enough that I just got the internet, and my kids don't even believe there was a time in history without the internet, but we just got it, and we were living in Wellington. It was dial up, all those noises. And for some reason, the homepage of Kerry came up. Maybe I was looking for something, and I just felt God say, there's where I want you to go to train to be a local pastor. And for that next month, I spent a lot of time just ringing and speaking to some of my mentors, people that knew me well, my old pastor in Palmy, Ian Robertson. I can still remember ringing him and saying, man, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think about that? My close friends, people that knew me well, can you pray about that for me? What do you think? And they all came back with like, oh yeah, that's you. You'll be great at that. So my church at the time was Tower Baptist down in Wellington, where we were living. And it's getting wise counsel and saying, this is what I'm sensing. What do you think about that? Can you pray into that for me? So, your own discernment, your own processing, and the the voice of others, and then there's just, there's a peace that comes after that. And, and when you kind of say to yourself, all right, I hear you. And God normally says, well, I've been telling you all along, but you got to do your process. And that's a process of testing, of discerning, of listening, of talking, of getting, the endorsement of others. So there's multiple aspects to that, but I am a huge fan of knowing who we are. When we know where our identity lies, that we're, a son or a daughter of Christ, that we're created in his image, that he's put unique things into us, Psalm 139, all that kind of stuff. Man, it took me a while to work that out, to be honest. I only discovered that as an adult and a bit of an older adult, but boy, is there powerful significance in that, and there's powerful peace that comes in that. So you get that, you know the ways wide you, discerning it becomes a little bit easier.
That's awesome, and sort of off the back of that, we now, obviously hindsight's a beautiful thing and a great thing, but having submitted to that call, taking that call up, and started wandering through this process with God, you felt the sense of the call on your life. And we look at some of the significant things that I obviously know about that you've done and you've been doing and still yet to do, I suppose. But if we talk about you coming to Windsor Park and being at Windsor Park Baptist Church, and some of the significant things that, because you talk about finding your purpose, your identity, and understanding the way you're wired. What were some of those things that you've had the real privilege of leading, standing up? Some significant things that God has wired Grant Harris to be the senior pastor of this church and navigate them through a very interesting and unique season and help build something special there. What are some of those things, Grant, that you've been a part of?
Yeah, what I find most interesting about myself is I come from a fairly conservative background. My parents would still say that today. My whole family is a fairly conservative, almost traditional kind of base, and it's solid and it's great. No qualms with that. But when I started getting into adulthood and started building my career and started thinking about the world, I found that I was quite entrepreneurial. That I used to think a lot about. I always used to remember sitting in my office. I had an office in the Terrace in Wellington, and thinking about the marketplace to which I was involved. And as a Christian, thinking, man, why isn't the church involved in the marketplace? Why isn't the church? I mean, I'm here as a Christian, and I kind of felt God say, that's good, but why isn't the church engaging in all of this? And I used to think about that all the time, and that kind of sparked a lot of my thinking and a lot of what I do these days. And so then when I kind of ended up in ministry, and I was in New Plymouth, and I used to think about this all the time. There was a couple of people in that church, a couple of guys that I got to know, and we used to talk about these things. And we did a bunch of stuff down there, but it wasn't really the fulfillment of some of my thinking. But I did a lot of reading and a lot of thinking, a lot of praying about it. And when Windsor Park opened up, when they gave me a call, there was only one reason that I felt God say to me, this is where I want you to go. He said to me, you're going to be able to work out all of the stuff that you've thought about that you can't do in Taranaki because of its size, and our church was kind of on the edge of town, all that kind of stuff. He said, you're going to actually be able to put into practice all what I've wired you for. And that was the only reason. We didn't have any desire to come to Auckland. Windsor Park in itself, it was a church, wasn't in itself attractive to us any more than what we were involved in. It was that sense of God saying, you're going to be able to use the gifts that I've planted in you and developed and that you've thought about. And true to his word, that's been exactly the case. So again, it was just that natural process of God continuing to grow me and stretch me, seasons of life, being able to think and dream. And I've always prayed this when I think stupid dreams. I always pray, God, if this is not of you, change the dream. I don't want to be wasting my time thinking about stuff that's not really of you. And there's been certain things, and there are still certain things in me that haven't come to fruition yet. But I still pray that prayer, and I'm like, in his time, he makes all things beautiful. So, even COVID, right? This season, which is nuts. I always say, I think I missed the classic Kerry, how to lead a church through a worldwide pandemic. I wasn't just playing ping pong that day. None of us know how to do this right. In our lifetime, none of us have had to lead a church through this craziness. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, what? God's wired me for this. And it's a huge challenge, and I'm relishing it. And I look back at all these things, and you've just got to trust that God is working out his plan in your life. Maybe not for today, maybe not for next week, but, in his time, he'll use you for those things. And so I can look back at all these moments now and think, yeah, he was good.
Yeah, no, that's right, man. And I mean, that's great advice and it's great insight. And I think about, so you come to Windsor Park, and I mean, you guys are running. You get obviously a bit different at the moment, but your cafe running on site, and then you've got the way you use some of the facilities around that space, and you've got the childcare centres going, and then you had something interesting like the was it the funeral home as an enterprise. Yeah, and then even some of the other social services that you guys had set up. So you become this pastor, entrepreneur, and then you go and get involved in something like the New Zealand Breakers. I mean, how does that happen? So on top of everything else, you go and pick up sport. What happens
It's
there?
just a God thing, bro. I tell you, it was a God thing. I mean, well, it's not, right? That was a weird set of events, actually. We'd literally just shifted here, and we were renting a house close by, and it had a little income part to it, next to it, and that was separately rented. And somebody was looking at that at one day, and I just got chatting to this lady in the driveway. She didn't end up renting it, but I was just chatting to her, and it happened to be Ross Giorgio's wife. And Ross Giorgio was head of sport chaplaincy here for a while. He's now global sport chaplaincy in Germany. And we just got talking about church and faith and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, I'm really loving it. I think I must have dropped a seed because when we shifted up here, I didn't quite recognize it. But our kids had all played basketball. I coached basketball. We're doing all that. And so when we shifted to the shore, it was like, oh, we're living in Breakers territory. So we went along, started going along to their games, which was cool. And then I had this chat with Rula in the driveway. And then I just get this call from Ross a few months later, and he's like, oh, you chatted to my wife in a driveway. The Breakers are looking for a chaplain. Would you be interested in that? And I can remember going home to the kids and saying, hey, might be the chaplain for the Breakers. And they're like, oh, that's cool. And they said, what's that? I says, I don't know. It sounds cool. It sounds cool. And so, again, it was just, for me, it was just, I didn't even know what sport chaplaincy was about, but I kind of had an idea of chaplaincy, obviously. And this before sport chaplaincy in New Zealand was even in existence in itself. So it was just an opportunity. And I remember I had to go meet the owners of the team, Paul and Liz Blackwell, and they seemed good with me. And they were like, but you got to go meet the head coach, which was Andre Lamanis at the time. And so I had to go down to Breakers head office and have a chat to Andre. And, Andre's a pretty rough kind of Aussie guy. He says, no, you'll be all right, mate. And then, so he's like, come down to training. And so I remember the next day going into training, and I was just sitting on the stands. And at the end, they go into a huddle, and he says, come over here, mate. And he's like, this is Grant. He's the new chaplain. And I remember thinking, yeah, that's me. I don't know what a chaplain does. I'll Google it. So again, just an opportunity, right? And I've always felt that, I have a heart for the marketplace, but in a bigger sense of that, I have a heart for mission in our world, how the church connects with the world, in society. And, I worked in business, obviously. I love my connections. I love having a wide group of connections. And so for me, that was like, I love sport. I love the basketball. I love that my job enabled me the flexibility to be a chaplain because their base is just around the corner from us. I love that my leadership team were all good with that. So it was just like, as a pastor, I'm preaching, we've got to reach out, we've got to connect with people, we've got to build relationships. And I just felt God say, well, here's your thing. Because as a pastor, you can spend all our time, Cliff, that you can spend all your time engrossed in church and Christians. And, that's very easy to do. It's the default position.
Yep. So
I just like, I got to practice what I preach. So, down there to this day, that they don't give a toss about any of that stuff that you just mentioned, entrepreneur, pastor, leader, whatever. They don't give a toss about any of that. All they want to know is, can I trust this guy? Can I talk to him? So for me, it's pretty humbling to be a chaplain because I'm literally the bottom of the heap, really. In that regards, I'm not paid by the team. That's our model. I get shirts and stuff. I get some Nikes, but overall, it's just me. I have to be me. And so chaplaincy is all about the ministry of presence, just being there for people, which is what I hated for probably half of it, because I'd drive down there and I was like, oh, God, give me something to do. Can I fill the water bottles? Can I pick up the towels? Can I do something? And I go to the manager at the time. It was Chris. And I was like, oh, bro, can I help you do something? He's like, no, we're under control. And God would just say, see, you just have to be. You just have to be present. You just have to. And so that was a big personal learning curve for me. So I'm a fan of chaplaincy.
No, that's great. And I suppose on that note, for for anyone that's, because I know there's some big, not just sports fans, but Jesus fans, and the symmetry between the two. What would be your one piece of advice if someone's hearing you say this right now, and something in their spirit's leaping like, wow, sport, God, mission, partnering the two? What would you say?
Get into it.
Get into it.
Give me a note. Let's message, let's chat. Look, at the end of the day, and I've said this for a number of years, we've just seen the tide flip slightly in sport chaplaincy. So I love chaplaincy generally. I think over recent years, chaplaincy is like an open door to the world that the church has not yet embraced. So I think in our whānau, the Baptists, we have more military chaplains than any other denomination right now. I know the guys at Devonport, I know some of them at Whenuapai and the Air Force. Man, the opportunities they get are amazing. I love military chaplains. I love hospital chaplains. I did a course once at Middlemore as called clinical pastoral education. I was a chaplain in the hospital. I hated it, but I love hospital chaplains. So I love the broad spectrum of chaplains, because chaplains get access and they have the ability to speak faith and life into people that the church just doesn't touch. So I love chaplaincy generally. I love sport chaplaincy because I love sport, and that's where I'm involved with. And specifically, I love basketball chaplaincy because I love basketball. So I kind of narrow it to that filter. And I'm like, so for those of us that love Jesus, that want to connect with our world, the reality is the world isn't driving past churches generally and saying, oh, let's go to church today. Generally speaking, every now and then. But on the whole, that's not happening. So we've got to think to ourselves, so how do we be the church in the world? And chaplaincy is like an open door. So sport chaplaincy is interesting because I've been involved since we formed the actual organization here in New Zealand. And really only last year it tipped over from we have more demand than we have supply. So right now we have vacancies for chaplains that we can't find people for. And that's the position we wanted to get to. And everywhere we kind of go, we speak into it, and everywhere that I go, I speak into it. It's a pretty easy sell, and people are pretty open to it. That's what I find. That, Cliff, that's been your thing. So news came out today that, the Tasmanian Huskies are relocating to Auckland. It'll be the Auckland Huskies. And I'm like, oh, Kevin Braswell has been appointed the head coach. I know Kevin, he was head coach of the Breakers. He was a player. I know Kevin well. I know all the organization. So next week, I'll be onto the phone. You guys need a chaplain. And they'll say, of course we do, Grant. Get us one. And I'll be like, okay, there's the challenge. So there's an open door, and I just think God's doing something pretty special in that space. So if someone's out there thinking, well, what's chaplaincy about? Obviously, they can speak to you, Cliff, or me, or whoever. It's like, there's an open door there. Have the courage just to stand up and start, pushing on that door, wherever you might be based, whatever sport you're in, whether it be league or, or basketball or whatever. We're getting a little bit of traction in that space in sports. And that's what we want, right? That's amazing. So if you've got a heart to serve people, if you don't mind just lingering with intent, if you can just chat about nothing, like I'm doing right now, just chatting about nothing. If you can just do that, you don't mind rocking up to people, God does the rest. And that's been my experience, just be present and allow the Spirit to lead you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Sorry. I was going to ask you, your love of basketball help with your tenure at the Breakers? For anyone out there, like, would you look for a sport that you're interested in?
Oh, I think it makes it interesting. But to be fair, I'm pretty useless at basketball. So sometimes at shoot around, they just laugh at me when I go and have some shots. It's not pretty. But, I guess I like basketball, but equally the bigger thing is you love people. So, if you love people and you don't mind getting beside people, having an interest in a particular sport is great, but the greater love is people. I feel like I could go into any organization now. Now that I have a bit of experience and understand it a bit more, I could go into any kind of sporting code and get beside people. So the people come first. The sport is a nice bonus.
That's awesome, Grant. And again, if someone is interested, message us, get in contact with us. There is lots of opportunity and support around that. What we're going to do in a moment is we are going to pull through some questions for Grant. But before we get to that, bro, I want to sort of bring all of this stuff that we've talked about with you in your life together. And I want to sort of land here before we bring up some photos of yours. And it's really around this thought or this question, with all the things you've got to carry in your life, the busyness of it all. How do you do that and do that well? How do you manage all of this grind? I mean, we're talking pastoring and leading people. We're talking about being entrepreneurial or being business-minded and overseeing these things. That means you're going to have to be on governance boards. That means you're going to have a chaplain here, as we've heard about that. And then you're a father still. That doesn't go away. You're still a husband, become a grandfather, and then still being that child of God, which is having a relationship and ensuring that's well with him. But look, honestly, how does one do that well, healthily, and keep going? Because now we're in COVID-19. You mentioned that, and it's challenging. And I think maybe some of your insights, your tips, your help might just help anyone. But it doesn't matter what walk of life they're in, whatever they're carrying. I'm sure that you must have some sort of strategies, disciplines to help you.
No, for sure. Having a good sense of humor will last. That's good. Got to have a laugh. But I think it goes a little bit back to what I was talking about earlier. You've got to know the way that God's wired you, and you've just got to be comfortable with that. So when you know who you are and what you're capable of, you've got to then avoid the comparison trap, and that's the biggest killer of it all. When you say all that stuff about me and it's nice, and I'm kind of like, I just am who I am. Don't put me on a pedestal, and I don't get my identity in any of that. If God took it all away tomorrow, I've got to be fine with that, and I've had to work at that. And sometimes things happen and it kind of hurts, and I'm like, you know what? My identity is not found in any of my positions. It's not found in any of my achievements. My identity is found in who I am as a son of God, and so that's strong. So I don't get my sense of significance out of any of that stuff. I enjoy it, and I'll work hard and all of that kind of stuff, all for that. But I also know the way that God's wired me, and He's wired me with a certain capacity, and He's wired me with a certain ability to be able to manage a lot of stuff, and to be able to, not take stuff too seriously. And He's managed me with, I guess, a brain and a really good wife that tells me sometimes that I'm not behaving well. I'm working too hard. And so I talk about it this way. When you know your capacity, it's a really good place to be. And I know my capacity, and sometimes I get to it and I just slip over it. And so I've learned to recognize that. I've learned to recognize, all right, I've got too much on right now. I need to pull back from some stuff. I need to not worry about some stuff that I'm worrying about. And so I recognize those signs physically within my body. I know when I'm not sleeping very well. I know historically I'm a little bit over it now, but for a lot of my life, I've had eczema. And so when that breaks out, it's physically, it's been like a sign of my body that kind of says, okay, you're stressing about something too much here. And now that I'm getting close to 50, there are other little, aches and pains. So again, knowing who I am, but also recognizing that God has given me the ability to be able to juggle a bunch of balls and to do those as well as I can. But it's easy for you to say that about me, but it's very easy for me to look at somebody else and go, man, I wish I was like them.
Sure.
Wish I could host a show on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday night from 9 to 10. I wish I could be like whoever. And I've had to really watch that, because I've fallen into that trap in the past and saying, well, if I just work harder at this, I'll be like that person. I'll never be like that person. And when I came to Windsor Park, it was interesting. The team that were kind of on the process was saying, I asked them a question. I said, my predecessor was a big character. And I said, do you want somebody like him? Because I said to them, if you want someone to fill his shoes and to do things the way he did, I said, it's not me. I knew myself well enough at that time to say, I'm very different. I lead differently. I'm a different character. And that's all good. Like, if you're looking for someone like that, I'm not your person. I'm like this. And so I often say that to my kids when they're sort of looking at jobs or careers. It's like, just be who you are. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. And God takes care of the rest. And it's a very comforting position to know who you are and what you're capable of, and not to worry about that. We've all got different levels. So
No, that's
at the same time, like I say, a bit of a laugh sometimes. And sometimes when I get a bit busy, a bit stressed, I'm like, it's so frustrating.
Well, I would totally agree with you that having a laugh is so important. Having a sense of humor is not just important. Man, it's just blimmin' helpful sometimes that you can go away, because you're literally trying to laugh yourself out of your cry, I think.
You're not wrong.
You're just trying to trying to get past that. So I appreciate that, man. And I think that's going to be really helpful for a lot of people that are watching, listening, even reflecting back on it over time. I think is going to be really great. So what we're going to do, bro,
can I say one more thing on that?
Yeah, go.
The other thing that I'll say is sometimes you find yourself in a position where you feel totally incapable for it. And I believe that, when God gives you gifts and abilities, sometimes you'll find yourself getting asked to do something, or you'll find yourself, leading something or whatever, serving somewhere. And you'll say to yourself, man, I am so ill-equipped for this. If they really knew me, they wouldn't ask me to do this. And I often feel like that sometimes, chairing boards or being asked to speak at various things. And I often go to, sit in the car beforehand and go, who am I to be doing this? This is nuts. But I then say to myself, but God, if you've opened that door, you know what? I'm going to do the very best that I can. And I'm just going to chill out in who I am. I'm just going to throw myself into that, and I'll let you take care of it. So when God gives you an open door, when he gives you an opportunity, just grasp it. And look, sometimes it comes back to bite you a little bit, and you can have a laugh about it. But, at the end of the day, like I say, the magic happens outside our comfort zones. That's where God pushes us. That's where we grow and where we learn. So if you find a door being opened, push on it and see what's behind it.
Awesome, man. So good. Thank you so much for that. And let's pull up some photos. We'll have some photos and we'll get you just to talk them through as they move through, explain what's going on, who they are. And then we'll pull up some questions that people have asked off the back of that amazing conversation. So let's fire some photos up. Let's have a look.
Yeah, that's my favorite photo, just to show you can have a bit of a laugh at myself. In fact, I showed that to my kids last night, that very picture. I think I was 5 or must have been 7. I got glasses when I was 7. And so that was in the summer of Palmy, which is kind of weird because Palmy doesn't really have summers, but they must have back in the day. So yeah, growing up in Palmy, I look at that picture and that's what helps me have a sense of humor.
It had a summer because you pulled those legs out, bro. That's why.
Tucking that t-shirt. That's so I got that. To have a bit of a laugh. Preachers and Sneakers is a great. I follow several sites. One is Preachers and Sneakers. The other is Prophets and Watches. That's a real funny Instagram as well. And then another one is Worship Fails. Follow all of those on Instagram. They're 3 really great sites that provide some good laughs. And so my son bought me that sweatshirt for my birthday last year. And that photo is significant because we have a little batch down in Mangakino in the central North Island, just in from Tokoroa. And that's where we go to chill. That's where I get my re-energy from. So that's down there. So any photo that's taken down there says to me, that's where I go. That's where God rejuvenates me. I love it down there.
Very cool. Here we go.
So several things, or 2 things significant with that picture. Number 1, I look pretty good as compared to my kid photo. Number 2, I'm coming up 50, so I can see my stomach poking out. Number 3, breakers, you get some merch along the way. But most significant about that picture, it was taken 2 weeks into lockdown, and my wife Jo had given me a haircut. First time she'd given me a haircut in our married life, and I thought she did pretty well. She gave me one subsequently, and I'll probably go get it fixed up soon. But I thought that was a pretty good haircut. Looking pretty good that day, actually.
Looking slick, man. She's done well.
It's my latest staff picture down at. See, I needed a haircut on that. I should have had a haircut before that too. But you can see that I'm getting old.
Nice, bro. Appreciate it. And this one.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah, my favorite place, a little river down in Mangakino that we go down and fish from. And again, I just like that picture because I thought I was looking pretty cool, if I don't say so myself. Yeah. And every couple of years, except this year, we take a team of our year 12 and 13s over to Los Angeles, and we serve with an organization called the Dream Center. And we call it an exposure trip. We expose young people to Skid Row and to some of the challenging situations of LA with a view to disciple them around how to get a worldview, a God worldview in LA that helps them when they come back to Auckland. So I really like that picture. One of the things that we do with the team is we take them to a baseball game. So on one of the trips, I think it was 2 trips ago, we went to the Angels down in Anaheim, and I bought a hat, and I just really like that picture. I got to be honest.
Very smooth.
It's good, bro.
Oh yeah, there we are. It's my preaching look. Speaking at a sport chaplaincy hui that we had a couple of years in Rotorua, and I was obviously saying something important because look at that passion.
Oh something
profound.
Who'd not want to be a chaplain after that speech?
Tell you. Come join the fun.
That's awesome, bro. Hey, look, we are gonna fire through a few questions now, and let's see what we've got. I've seen a few come up, so let's bring them through. It sounds like you're a yes man to all of those God opportunities. Was there a time where you said no to something, and what was that? What did you miss out on or regret because you said no?
Yeah, well, the challenge of saying no to God is you don't know what you miss out on because you miss out on it. So, yeah, certainly there are times when, you say no. Am I a yes man?
Eventually?
Yeah. Yeah.
Eventually.
I went through a bit of a crisis, maybe a personal thing. So beginning of last year, when we came to Auckland, I felt that God said, come for 10 years, which was kind of medium term. And so when that came up, it put us in put me in particular, in a bit of a crisis. I was like, all right, God, this anniversary is up. What's next? And it put me into a bit of a spin. It took me 6 months to work through it, really, maybe slightly longer than that. And when I felt God say, actually, I want you to stay. And I was like, nah, I've got some other opportunities. I'm not a stayer. I'm always a move on guy. I've never been in a job that long anyway to start with. And so it was easy to say no to God there because I was like, no, I don't want to stay. I want the next thing. And I actually had to say, yes, okay, I trust you. It doesn't feel natural to me, but I trust you. So I guess I said no and yes. But yeah, like I say, it doesn't always come easy.
Yeah, cool. Ose, any interesting story about a time you preached to a tough crowd and how did you navigate that? I'm sure you got plenty.
Yeah, well, we're a North Shore crowd. I can't wait to come speak at the Render Gathering because I'm sure you guys are much more interactive. We're North Shore, they aren't quite as dynamic. So I speak to a tough crowd. But none of them are watching, by the way. I always find it interesting when you do go speak in other environments. Like you know your own people, so when you're speaking to your own people, you look at the ones that encourage you generally, and you avoid the ones that have gone to sleep. But so sometimes you go into an environment and a different church, perhaps, and it's just a whole different crowd. You don't know anyone, and you do find it tough just to kind of build that rapport with people. And so I always take the approach of saying, oh well, sometimes you make a joke and it's like, I don't even know if that joke worked, but whatever, I'm just going to keep going. So yeah, tough crowds. I mean, as a speaker, you just learn to adjust and you learn to kind of know when to bring the energy or know when to calm things down. Yeah, it's, I've been doing this a few years now, I guess, still learning, but, have learned some stuff on the road.
No, that's great. Taryn, again, do your children serve in church? And if so, in what area each? And we obviously
I'll say one story about that one. When Joe and I came into ministry, we spent a lot of time talking about how we were going to parent our kids because like a lot of people, we'd seen a lot of pastors who kids, and we heard them when we were at college, kids came in and said, they hate the church. And some of them hated their dads. And we were like, whoa, we weren't expecting this. This is nuts. We spent a lot of time talking about how we would parent our kids as pastors and touch wood or touch my computer or touch my webcam. So far, so good. Yeah, look, our 4 kids are very engaged in Windsor Park. They serve. Our youngest is a youth leader. I work up from that. So he's very involved in our youth ministry. Our daughter, she shifted to Brisbane a couple of months ago. She, again, was a youth leader. Our son, he is actually just become a board member on our social enterprise company. That's really significant. We really love raising up young leaders, and he is one of them. So he works in business as well. So so he serves in multiple different areas. Actually, his wife, Jess, works for me. So she's pretty involved in the church. She's our communications advisor. And then our eldest daughter, she just had a baby. But they're all part of our faith community. And look, that's a huge blessing, knowing that we do life and faith together as a family. And we've worked hard at that in our family, to be real about church and to be real about faith. That's been big for us.
Awesome, man. That's so good to hear. Great. We're going to take this last question. Then what we'll do, Grant, is any other questions that we have for you, we will pull together, we'll send them to you, and then we'll get them back later. But the last one here from Tita is, Pastor Grant, do you have a mentor or who do you look up to and why?
Yeah, I really love mentoring. So I have mentors and I mentor people, and I really believe in that circular thing of mentoring. I'm old enough to have got a few runs on the board now, but that does not mean that I know everything. Yeah, so I have kind of 2 mentors, and I guess I have a range of mentors depending on situations. But Cliff, you'll know Murray Cottle. He's a career pastor. He's in his 70s now. Still works for the Baptist Northern Association in Auckland. But during my whole ministry career, he's been he's been a mentor to me. He's guided me on a number of different things, and he's been my go-to guy for ministry. He's helped me on both my churches that I've gone to and processing that, and still a go-to guy for me. I have the highest respect for him because he just loves the church, and he loves me, and so that's been huge. Also, Martin Norrie he was the chair of the board of Windsor when I came here, and I'd served with him on the Kerry board before that, but over the last 12 years, he's been a very significant mentor to me. Many times I go to him and ask him about various things. So I'm a bit of a believer in mentoring or having go-to people that can help you in certain circumstances. You've got something that you're facing and it might be in a specific area, and you're like, you know what, maybe that person's going to be able to help me and process that. So I'm a big believer in that. And like I say, because I've got a few runs on the board now, I mentor a few younger pastors who think, I'm the old guy now, we can go to him. So life's come full circle.
That's cool, man. And I agree. Mentoring so important, looking after and raising up the next generation. And Grant, I think you're doing an amazing job at it, bro. And we need people like yourself to keep doing what you're doing and keep mentoring others. I know personally in the time I've been privileged to know that I appreciate the relationship as well and gleaned a lot. Having to not just come out there, but also when I get to catch up with you, it's always something to learn and talk about. So it's fantastic. We're going to pull all those questions through. We are going to send them off to Pastor Grant, and he's going to answer them for us at some point, which is awesome. That brings us to the next part of the show, which is lockdown living. And we always start lockdown living with a please explain. So, Pastor Grant, would you please explain this picture?
Where did you get that from? Oh my goodness!
I have my ways.
Yeah.
Please
so you got to have a laugh, right? You got to be flexible in life, and you got to let people have their way in you sometimes. Man, that's rough.
I'm actually loving. I've just noticed that person peeking through the blinds in the back.
Yeah, quite a smooth complexion though. I have to say, I've got to be honest.
I wouldn't disagree. Blue looks good on you. Is that purple? I'm not sure. But hey, look, it is lockdown living. We have a bit of fun with some videos and stuff that we throw back to. It's Throwback Thursday. We're going to pull through a few things now. This was a couple of years ago, but it was a couple of people, some people from the Render Gathering doing their best impression of an Arnie, doing an Arnie impression. I get to the chopper. I'll be back. So let's have a quick watch of that, see how they go, and we'll put Bodie on the spot after it.
Silent.
Get down. 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 Get down.
I'll be back.
No, Jenny. I'll be back.
I'll be back. I can't think of it. Hasta la vista, baby.
All right, Brody, give us your best, brother. Let's go.
What do you want? Okay, I'll go something kindergarten cop. It's not a tumor.
That's good, bro. Oh, that's a good one. Right, we're going to move on to what it means. So out in South Auckland, we have a famous phrase that really has no definition, but it means everything, and that is chur. Let's explain that now. Thank you, Isaac. Take it away.
Today's word of the week is chur. Chur means hello, goodbye, thank you, like chur, or bye, chur, or thank you, chur.
That's a bit of a special one because if you don't know, Isaac's dad today successfully has had a kidney transplant, which is amazing, and God is good in that space. So again, Isaac, to you, my bro, hope you had a good day out there. But in saying that, it's also been our theme this month at the Render Gathering, Pastor Grant, if you didn't know, is it's called In the Fight, and we've had this play on martial arts and on all things sort of throwing back to the 70s and 80s of martial arts, and we want to throw this video back to just some of our guys a few years ago who are going to cringe at this because we capture everything on video and film of them doing their best kung fu pose and stare. Let's go. Let's have a look at that now. Oh, the thing.
What's the name of that martial arts school? I want to attend.
That was good camera work too.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
camera.
Not bad, eh? And I think I need to speak to that sensei, I think. We have a chat to him about some of the things he makes his people do. In saying that, we haven't finished, because on that note, last week we played this video. In fact, we played in 2 sections, and they're backed by popular demand. We had so much request for them. Like, people thought they were so good. So this one, I think, well, yeah. Well, me and Bodie had a conversation, and we thought, let's play it again. So let's play that now. Backed by popular demand. I'm calling this Tiger, Tiger, Tiger. Let's go. Oh man, no matter how many times I see it, Herman is just that's awesome. Herman, bless you, brother. Thank you for being a pawn in my joy. I really appreciate it. It's so good, so good. And we've got Samoan Language Week coming up, and we've got an amazing Samoan woman at our church who leads the youth. Her name is Hadassah. And last week we played this clip of her, and I thought, well, in acknowledgement of Samoan Language Week, she speaks Samoan. I'm calling this clip Not So Samoan Language Week, and this is Hadassah at her finest. Oh man, I don't know what she was doing, but something in lockdown. That's why it's called lockdown living. We had a bit of fun with that. I'm sure there's been some crazy people at Windsor Park doing some similar stuff.
I'm sure.
Yeah, hey, it's good to have a laugh. Like we said, it helps us deal with all the insanity of the moment. But now we come to the memes gathering. Bodie.
Yes,
please,
let's continue on that joyous path with some memes. What would you like today? Chirp, what's up first? I can't remember. When you're feeling good about yourself and someone says, you look tired. I'm like, oh.
How offensive, eh? It's like, where do you go to from there?
Oh, this is a good. You'll understand when you're older. I'm older, and I understand absolutely nothing.
That's me.
Oh, it's many of us, I think.
Hey, this one's just to give me some a boost. Really, why are all those overpowered characters bald?
It's a good question.
What about Goku though? That's a good one, Bodie.
Avatar.
Nice. Now we're going to give it over to Pastor Grant. He's got some goodies for us tonight.
Ooh.
Over to you, my friend. Let's bring up Pastor Grant's first one. Here we go.
You see, I quite like that one, right? Meanwhile, inside the fridge, it's poor old Corona. Everyone likes a little bit of Corona with lemon, right? But poor old Corona. The company has struggled. Yeah, go support them, I think.
Nice.
Yeah. See, yeah, I understand that, right? We get that. Pastoring a church, I'm 42. I mean, who would think it? Right? I'm only 23, and look at me.
I know the pain.
Of course, you've got to have a basketball one, right? And look, is there a more consummate Kiwi than there is Stephen Adams? How many times has he been kicked up nuts? And he just grins and bears it, right?
I reckon. Look how stoic. Look how Kiwi he is in that moment, though.
After that, you know what his first word was? He said, "Sure, bro."
He's like, what foot? Oh, so good, Pastor Grant. Thank you for that. Hey, we're going to bring up 3 more. And I was thinking about this one. This is like going into level 2. All those people that are making plans without you.
Yeah.
When you see them all going out and no one's invited you.
There's a basketball hoop in the reflection there. It's a good thing.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Nice. Next one. Had an interview today and my belly rumbled. The lady goes, "Missed lunch?" I told her, nah, I'm hungry for success.
Smart person right there.
Oh, yeah. I got to love it. And this one, weight loss goals, to be able to put on my work boots and breathe at the same time. How many people know that post-lockdown?
You know what? I've preached for the last 9 weeks in socks only, mate. It's been a great thing about, being at home, right? We can.
Yes. Liberties.
Yep.
That's awesome. Hey, look, we're going to get to the most powerful part of the moment of the show, which is meme this, and Pastor Grant, for being our esteemed guest. We have got a special. Now, I've got to frame this one up very, very importantly. We are only roasting Pastor Grant. Right? Oh,
good.
Okay, so I've got to frame that up well, because it's not fair on someone that's not on the show. All right. And in this instance, it happens to be your beautiful wife. So we're going to bring up this picture and we're going to play meme this. And the aim of the game is we throw our best jab at Pastor Grant.
You've been my Facebook, haven't you?
we have. And so all we want to hear is that face you make when, or if you can frame that up in a meme, if you were to frame it up in a meme, what would you say?
I'd just say that look when you know you're punching above your weight.
Nice, bro. That's a good one. So we're going to bring towards the end of the show. We're going to bring a few of those in. We'd love you to start posting up your lovely burns, but again, only of Pastor Grant, please. And then we'll bring those through towards the end of the show. But what I want to ask you now, and we'll start with you, Grant, is we used to call this section I Missed the Gathering, but now we've sort of moved into level 2, and we might be moving back into more connection with people. I want to frame it up as I can't wait to be gathering. What are you looking forward to the most, Grant, as we move back to or things are changing now? What is one thing that you're looking forward to doing a bit more of, or getting involved in, or seeing?
Yeah. Look, I guess I'm a people's person, and I love being around people. I had my first in-person meeting today since the 24th of March. Everything's been like this on screens, and I felt myself pretty excited by that. So I love being around people. I love kind of you can do video stuff a lot, and we've done a lot of it, but there are certain things that you miss with that. So I guess I just love the energy that comes, and the energy that I get as an extrovert from being around real people, and just telling a good yarn, having a good story, and sitting around and having a coffee. And I've only had, I think, 2 flat whites since, because we've been making them at home. So I've only had takeaways once since we've gone into level 3.
Nice.
So I guess I'm looking forward to, I guess, just going out a little bit more. I haven't really even done that yet. But
what takeaways do you have?
No, not really. I've been so busy. But I guess at the same time, this has presented some unique challenges for us. So I'm looking forward to, I guess, seeing how we respond to those and see how we, push through and what comes out of that and where God leads us. It'll be pretty exciting.
Nice. And Bodhi, what's one thing you can't wait to be gathering about?
Can I give you 2 things? First one, quickly. First day of lockdown, my brother and my nephews came over. So to give them a hug and see them. And if you know my brother, he's not much of a hugger, but I'm saying, bro, it's been 7 weeks. I'm hugging you. So, to see them in person was fantastic. But I'm also along the same lines around doing stuff that's new, or doing stuff that's not going back to the old ways of doing things, but actually what exciting new opportunities we have moving forward, and ways to innovate and rethink and re-strategize the way we do church, the way we hang out with people, the way we communicate. It's really exciting in some ways, without the whole economy thing.
Yep. Yeah. Yes, the economy thing. Yeah, no, that's cool, man. I appreciate that. We're going to go back into some throwback photos real quick. It is Throwback Thursday. We're going to bang through these. So there's just a few photos of people from the Render Gathering, and I think we've even got one in there of Pastor Grant as well. Let's throw in now some throwback photos. That little girl there with the pink little top on, that's Amy Thompson as a young girl. Very cool, Amy. Loving
American.
it. With an American, yeah. There's Denley in the green playing netball. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Wow.
We had a staff bowling day, and we had to dress up in our favourite sports people. So, Trailblazers were one of my teams at the time.
Nice. And that one is Hadassah, right?
Ah,
Hadassah. A little bit of Luke Hang in there. And there's JP. Nice JP.
Nice.
Marky and his bro. Penny.
in there, chirping it.
Stash going on. Shayla and Reef. And there's a good one for us, old Shane. So I pulled that. We got to be able to pull one in for Shane. Shane-O from Sport Chaplains in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And Tans, yeah. Ooh, look at this model.
Fire emoji.
Oh, Tips, Brother Tips. The throwback to Brother Tips. There we go. There's a goodie. And Brother William taking the cake again.
He loves dressing up, William.
Willie Bryant.
There we go.
Hey.
Since I was a baby.
Here you are, Willie.
Yeah, I threw that one in there because I knew you go way back with yourself and Willie. So that's really, really cool. We're going to go on to what's on this week. So just Pastor Grant, what's one thing you're looking forward to? And maybe if you want to tell us a little bit about your guys' online services, we're going to bring a graphic up and you can tell us about the church at Windsor Park.
Yeah, so we've obviously gone online, and I think we've done a reasonable job of what we kind of branded Windsor Park at home. That's what we invented right when the lockdown was announced, and so we've been doing that. And really, we're kind of like a lot of churches right now, heading back into that review stage, kind of saying, I mean, this coming week we are going to be able to get back into record as a team. With 10 or less of us for this week, but at least we're going to be able to record and not do everything from all of our homes. So, and we're kind of just devising that strategy around. So what does Windsor Park at home, or what does Windsor Park online look like for us into the future? It's kind of capturing some of the things that we've learned. And, we've been streaming for a year or so and doing a bunch of things online, but we've learned a whole lot over this lockdown. We want to continue trying stuff. We want to try and connect with people digitally in ways that we haven't, and, devise a strategy around that. So pretty excited. This week is kind of the kickoff of some of that review and start of that planning. But for our music team, being able to meet together, like I had a meeting today with a couple of them. I was like, I haven't seen you since we walked out of that service on the 22nd of March when we live streamed, and we kind of said, see you next week, but we didn't see them next week. So, we'll be able to get back together, our team, and do some kind of recording for our future onlines over the next, because none of us really know how long this is going to go on for. And 100's really not much use for us at Windsor Park, because you're still going to have to be spaced, and it's going to be ridiculous. So I'm kind of like, we could be online in our context for another few months. Yeah. So we got to keep that fresh. We got to keep looking at what we're doing and how we're doing it and how we're engaging people. So this week's kind of a big week. I'm going to go back to my office on Monday. And work back for the first time. So it's going to be different.
Awesome, man. So again, just to reiterate, if you don't have a digital home, a digital church home, go check out Windsor Park Baptist with Pastor Grant and his team. I'm sure they'll look after you there, and you can tune in and connect with them as well. Awesome.
If you're not tuning into the gathering, that is.
Of course, absolutely. Boats, one thing you're looking forward to this week, what's on?
Kids are going back to school. And I say that in jest. But it is quite funny over this period of having Zoom meetings, and the kids will just bolsh on into the room and they're like, Dad, I want a snack. Dad, can we watch TV yet? And you're like trying to find the mute, and then you're kind of like having like offside discussions.
You're trying to be super professional way. You're like right in the middle of closing the deal, and kids are like, Dad, you're useless. Where's the
But so like obviously I'm still cautious of how this COVID pandemic is going and how the schools are going to manage that. But they're going to go back to school, so it'll be the interesting dynamic around working from home, but also wanting to be a good father and help them with their schooling and kind of engage with them. It's been pretty hectic, but I'm also it's like a theme of the show. We're thankful for teachers.
Absolutely, bro. I appreciate that, and I agree. And just the last word on what's on this week for us. Obviously, at the Arena Gathering, we have a couple of services that people can tune into. So again, we have the 9:30, 11:15 streams. Find us on Facebook, on our app, on our website. There's kids programs, a whole lot of other stuff happening around that. If you come on or you check out the Facebook pages, you'll be able to get connected and involved as well. So the important thing is you connect to a faith community, and that's what we really want you to be able to do, is find a place where you can be looked after and you can know more about this amazing Jesus that's changed our lives, which is the most exciting and wonderful thing. And that's what's on this.
That's what's on this week. That's what's on this week.
Nice.
That was cool.
Yeah.
A Spotify track, like
We could.
move over to Carol Baskin.
Asking for a baskin. Hey, we're going to move to. I didn't come prepared. As we come to the end of the show, let's put up that beautiful picture. And the beautiful part is obviously Grant's wife, Pastor Grant's wife. And we're going to bring up these memes now. So let's start firing them through. Let's have a bit of fun. The face you make trying to look normal, but you're low key squashed in the back of the car.
It's true. It was a roll.
I have no idea what day it is today, but I've got a present hidden in my house already for when she reminds me about our anniversary. The face your wife makes when she realizes that Willie Bryant is driving.
I know. Good one.
Yeah, there's a good one. There's a good one, Shane. Oh, that's a good one.
I've got one.
Yeah.
Can we go first? Oh, so I'm going to say the face you make when you're waiting in line at the Windsor Park KFC for 4 hours.
Yeah, when you've been locked up for 4 weeks already.
Right, let's bring the next one in. When you just got married, but you want to get away to celebrate with the boys.
Okay.
All right, what else have we got here? What am I reading? Here we go. The face you make when you paid for 2 hours and the wedding took 3.
Yeah, I know that's true, isn't it? You've been there.
The face you make when you remember that my wife has 6 brothers.
Yeah, that's true. 6 older brothers. We knows them.
Couple more. Let's see what we got here. The face you make when she surprised you with "I do," and you have not figured in after that.
Well, it's a surprise.
Yeah, it's the price of both of us, eh?
The face you make when Render Radio pulls up an old photo of your wedding day. Come on, Render Radio.
All right, here's Den's one. The face you make when you know you're in for a heck of a journey after marriage.
Yeah.
Nice.
29 years this year.
Oh,
Wow. That's something to celebrate. Yeah, maybe one more. Have we got one more? One more. Bang. Just looking through. I think we.
Quickly.
Yeah, there are a few.
face you make when you're waiting for another meme.
There you go. And on that note,
She's probably at my door right now, banging down, saying, "How did they get that photo?"
no, I apologize in advance on your behalf.
In advance.
She's got your details, Cliff. I tell you.
Hey, well, all I'm giving you the opportunity to do is practice forgiveness. And, yeah. So,
You'll forgive me.
In saying that, I do want to honor you tonight, Grant, and I want to give you this section is called Our Thoughts Be Gathering, but I want to give you the final word on tonight. I actually want to ask you, what's one thing in this season, what's one encouragement or something the Holy Spirit's just been speaking to you about that you could just share with us tonight? A simple thought to take away, to encourage people, to challenge them to keep going.
Yeah. You know, one thing that I wrote about this a number of weeks ago. Often when thoughts come to me, I'm like, I got to write this down so I don't forget them. I kind of felt God saying to me, you know what, I prepared you for this season, both personally, but also us as a community as well. And I just wrote down like 2 pages of stuff that we've done over the last couple of years, or things that have happened to us, or even things that we spoke about last year. Super powerful. You know, we at the end of last year, we sat down with a bunch of churches that we work with, and we said, what are we going to preach about in this year? And so I started a block this week on Nehemiah, talking about rebuilding the wall and how we rebuilding community. We planned that at the end of last year, and we put that date in the diary for this Sunday, having no idea what would happen. I mean, what a date, May the 17th, first week of level 2. We're talking about rebuilding our society, and I'm talking about a story in the Bible that was rebuilding a society. God's gone before us, and God goes before us, and he prepares us for things. And normally it's in hindsight that we see that. And it's important that we remember that when stuff happens to us, it's not a surprise to God. He knows what's coming up for us. And if we're willing to embrace that sense of being prepared for what the future holds, then we carry a peace in the midst of that. And we have we know that he's with us. We know that he's holding us. We don't know what the future holds. And there's pain to come, right? Economically, people that will lose their jobs. I know people that are already doing that. There will be pain in those situations. But God is still with us with that, and he knows that pain. And so we've got to carry it, we've got to give it over to him. And the passage I'm preaching from this week talks about when Nehemiah realized that the wall had been broken down, they weren't rebuilding it. It said, he mourned and he cried and he fasted and he prayed. And he had a real emotion that this sucks. And it's okay to be real with that, but he gave it to God. So in this season, you know what? God's gone before us already. He knows what's ahead of us. And we have to press into him. We have to trust him. We have to allow his spirit to hold us and comfort us through whatever pain is going to be there. But there will be another day. And, there's that old saying, it's going to be okay in the end. And if it's not the end, then there's still things are going to happen, right? So trust that God is with us, that he is still good, that he knows our situations, and, just hold on to him, be real about our emotions. But you'll look back in a year and you go, wow, you know what? If we trust him through these times, things will happen. And we'll just be able to say, he's got us. And that just helps us for the next stage as well. Helps us for the next thing that's going to come up. So, I was pretty excited looking back at a whole myriad of different things for us. Even for me personally, it's like, I wrestled with my own sense of call last year. And then all my, my staff and people around me have said, you know what, Grant, you came through that and God had you here for this season, because we're stable. You know us, we're journeying together. And so again, it's kind of like, even personally, it's right. God went ahead of me. So trust that he's going ahead of you, and trust that he has good plans for you. And it's a great place to be able to reflect backwards, live in the present, and then in faith and with courage, look forwards to whatever is ahead. And he's good. People said to us, and I sometimes engage at my own peril, sometimes on media online and stuff like that. And, people bag the church and they bag God, and I'm like, I don't believe God caused the COVID-19. That doesn't stick with me, because my God doesn't go out and hurt people. But the world is broken, so it happened. And God allows it to happen so that we can press into him. And so it's kind of like, the world is tough. Tough things happen. But God is the one thing that does not change, that is totally present with us, that holds us through whatever the future holds. So I guess that's what I want to say to people. There's going to be some pain. We all know that. We're bracing for it as a church, and plenty of people are embracing for it in our country. But we've got to be there for one another, and that's the great strength of community. That's the great strength of faith communities. It's a great strength of the Render Gathering. It's a great strength of Windsor Park. It's a great strength of being part of God's people and connecting in and pushing into that so that we can carry one another. And you know what? We do that as churches. And what I love about tonight is that we're doing it as churches. And me, I'm a collaborator. We the more we can do together, the better the kingdom's going to be honored. So hang in there with each other, hang in there with God, and good things will come.
Great. Fantastic. Amazing. And I'm going to let that be the last word tonight. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate your wisdom. So Pastor Grant, we honor you tonight. We thank you for your time. We thank you for your sharing, for your insight, for having a laugh with us. Some of it might have been at your expense, but we do, nevertheless, we appreciate the laughter. But more importantly, we appreciate what God's done in your life because of the effect it's having today, and the encouragement that it gives all of us to press into our own identity. And like you said, to trust that God is ahead of all of us and he's got it. And that's the greatest thing that we can say. So in saying that, if there's anyone watching tonight that is wondering about this Jesus, this God we're talking about, please reach out. If there's something that's sparked your interest tonight, please reach in, and we would love to be able to if not us, navigate you toward the right church or the place that God is really purposing and calling you to as well. And it might just be Windsor Park, or it might be another church up the road. but it's got to be somewhere God has a place and a purpose for you. So again, brother, thank you so much for tonight. It's been real fun. Bodie, thank you, my bro. I appreciate your time again. And we're going to go out tonight. It's Throwback Thursday. So we've had Mother's Day recently. I wanted to commemorate the dads as well, even though we haven't had Father's Day yet. So a couple of years ago, we did a little Father's Day short with a couple of our men at church. And I actually think some of the keywords that come up actually just describe who God is, even in this season right now. So it's a bit of fun. It is a throwback. Enjoy it tonight as our last video as we go out. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe. We are the Render Gathering, helping you become with Windsor Park.
Bless you.
Thank you.